The NHL is terrified that this is happening as the Winnipeg Jets come out and absolutely dominate the Vancouver Canucks in a game that saw Kyle Connor shine, Connor Hellebuck shine, and Logan Stanley continue to play really bad hockey. We're going to break all it down in this episode, but before we get into it, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jets content. And over at Hattrick, we're on the road to 10K, so smash the subscribe button over there as well. There's a lot of things to go over today. And shout out to you guys on Hattrick. Your support has been unbelievable, by the way. But there's a lot to go over. I mean, the Jets come out in a game against a Vancouver Canucks team that have been, a bit better as of late. They completely curb stomped the Toronto Maple Leafs. They come out, and the Jets just send a message right off the bat. And Vegas loses. The Jets now are back atop the NHL lead in standings. And let's dive into this game. And I made the joke that wasn't a joke about Logan Stanley being really bad at the start in the intro there. We'll dive into that later. I want to take some and talk about some of the positives. Nito Niederreiter with the game of the week for him. Not the game of his career by any means. One of the games of the season for him. 7 shots on goal for Nito is crazy. A goal and an assist. You have Kyle Connor with a hat trick. You have even Gabe Vilardi getting back in with 3 assists. I mean, tonight's game was dominant from start to finish. Mark Scheifele, Cole Perfetti's back on the board. Everybody played well. We saw Rasmus Kapari, and let's not forget, we had a video on it earlier today. The lines were jumbled a little bit here, and we saw even, Kapari on the third line step up.
Yeah, one of my buddies picked up Gabriel Vilardi on waivers, I guess, in fantasy tonight, and shout out to him because that was a great decision to pick him up today, obviously, with another great game from Gabe Vilardi, and he's been such a great piece of that first line. The first line essentially hasn't been disbanded all season because they've been that good. They've been doing that well, and Kyle Connor tonight, not only a hat trick, like you said, but a natural hat trick, really, sending a message tonight to the Vancouver, not just to the Vancouver Canucks, to the entire NHL. Like, they're here for real. The Jets offense is potent if this continues into the playoffs, which is something, there's been a lot of question marks from Jets fans in terms of that. But if this continues into the playoffs, this is a very scary team. And again, Cole Perfetti, another guy that we've been talking about on the channel. We see the comments, right? A lot of people have been, ragging on him lately because obviously he hasn't been playing up to the level that I think Jets fans think he can play at, right? And I think even he himself thinks that he can play at. Again, 2 assists, and he has 100 career points after tonight. So another great game, statement game against the Vancouver Canucks, who just came off of a big win against the Toronto Maple Leafs, 6-1. And I just feel bad for Connor Hellebuck and all this. He should have probably had a shutout tonight.
Yeah, and you see Kyle Connor recorded his first career natural hat trick just 13 minutes, 37 seconds into tonight's game, which is completely absurd. The only faster instance to begin a game in franchise history is Sean Monahan last season, which also marks the last natural hat trick. I know a lot of Jets fans probably remember that game. I definitely do. And we'll dive Logan Stanley in a minute here. But, I mean, there's a lot of positives to take away. Neil Pionk with a good game. Josh Morrissey with a good game. Iafallo, okay. And, you look at the blue line, and I'll dive into Logan Stanley briefly. He now stick handles himself into a corner, giving Quinn Hughes a rush chance that Ville Heinola takes away. Stanley's last play of the shift is a big hit, and he gets applause in the building for that. And I don't want to hate on Stanley a ton here. He had the 3rd most time on ice out of blue liners. Now, I think a big part of that was because of the lead, and there's nothing wrong, the third pairing, especially with Ville Heinola there, getting some ice time when the lead is big, and you have Connor Hellebuck, the best goalie in the NHL. And we've seen in games against the Avs, he only played 11 minutes. So I'm not putting too much stock into the actual time on ice. He just doesn't look great out there. Now, whether they need to make an addition at the deadline, we obviously know Hayden Fleury's, nearing a return. You have Colin Miller nearing a return. Those guys are going to replace Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola. And if tonight wasn't a picture-perfect example of why and how, this is not to make this positive into a negative because this game was great, I still think, Logan Stanley has some work to do there.
Yeah.
And it needs to happen.
And Logan Stanley's an interesting case because he has all the tools. He's a big body, right? Like, that's, so many teams want that left-handed big body shot on the defense, and obviously can play if you're in a pinch, obviously top 4 minutes. And we've seen it so far this season because of the injuries and everything that's happened to Hayden Fleury and Dylan Sandberg and whatnot. But, it's a hockey IQ for me. It's just the weird puzzling decisions sometimes that just make no sense. And he puts himself in some tough spots sometimes. And obviously there was a lot of tweets and, a lot of rumblings tonight about some boos directed towards Logan Stanley during the game as well. Again, throwing big hits and stuff like that because he's a big body and you need that in the playoffs. But again, it's the hockey IQ thing for me. It's just putting himself in weird spots, making some weird decisions. I think that's at least 3 times this season in terms of post-game videos that we've done, Nick, where we can say, why did Logan Stanley do that? And he cost, a goal against or a shutout, right? I think it's at least the second time this season where he's actually cost Connor Hellebuck another shutout. He has 6 on the year. He only has 6 losses on the year. He could have 8 shutouts. So it's unfortunate in that way. I do feel bad for Connor Hellebuck. Put on another great performance. But yeah, Logan Stanley for me. I think it's just a hockey IQ. Let me know what you think in the comments about that, because, we do see the comments and a lot of people think that he does have use, but at the same time, a lot of Jets fans think, just get rid of this guy. Maybe the experiment is over, but I think that's pretty interesting. But to me, Nick, I think it's just a hockey IQ.
Yeah, and to go back to positive, I mean, standing ovation to end the game, natural Hattie for Kyle Connor, Cole Perfetti, Gabe Velarde, and touching on Cole Perfetti, and you mentioned it earlier, I think the line tonight was good. It was really solid. Obviously, Cole Perfetti and Kapari, and it's very interesting, and Nino, and obviously that third line was dominant, and Niederreiter put up a crazy game. But when you're looking at the dynamic, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts on it, it's interesting because you have Cole Perfetti now, and he's at his best when he's driving play, when he's doing all those things. But then you also have Kapari, who you never really think to be necessarily a great on that line. He's able to help and be responsible defensively, which is something that helps this line a lot and allows Nino Niederreiter to do what he does best as well, putting up 7 shots. I don't know if that's always going to happen, but we know Nino. He brings goal scoring, he brings grit, and then Kapari's so fast that he can get back and be more responsible because he's not going to score a ton anyway. It's a very interesting line. I think it worked really well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting line, that's for sure, but it did work well in this game, and it has been working well. And I mean, you can't split up Ehlers and Lowry at this point. They've been going, obviously, so keep them together for the time being until it does not work. And the third line worked tonight, right? So I want to see what happens. I want to see them go further with that line and see what it can do. And again, Niederreiter with a great game, like you said. Kapari, to me, is a Swiss Army knife a little bit for the Winnipeg Jets so far this year. Like, we've seen him a lot on the fourth line. He's played in different roles, different situations and stuff like that. And now he's moved up to the third line, and he's giving them some pretty good minutes there. So he's been kind of that guy that can kind of go around the bottom 6 and kind of do everything for this team. And I think you need guys like that. So the Jets have gotten a guy like that in their bottom 6, and I think that's a great thing. But it's an interesting line. I want to see what they continue to do, but I think the end goal is to get Cole Perfetti playing to a level, again, that, Jets fans expect him to be playing at, which would be, on the second line, probably putting up a plethora of points, and especially heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, huge game for Cole Perfetti, huge game for, really everybody on the forward group there. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do going forward because, again, you have a huge game from Kyle Connor. You have a rough game from Logan Stanley, a great standing ovation. We're getting tons of sellouts. The Jets, that is, are getting tons of sellouts in the Canada Life Center. And they move to first place. Everything went right for the Winnipeg Jets. And one other mention is going to be, the Ville Heinola. I know we touched on Logan Stanley a lot here. I'm very curious to see what happens with Ville Heinola going forward when everybody gets healthy. I think moves are going to be made, whether that's a trade, maybe. He's been with the Jets so long now, so much opportunity. This was his first year of getting consistent playing time. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. But that'll wrap it up. Again, huge win for the Winnipeg Jets. They sit atop the NHL now following the Golden Knights loss. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. Cheers.